we've been able to budget about $60,000 a year for blacktop repair, road repair, gravel work, and about I think it's 26,000 or 22,000 for grinding of the gravel roads. So roughly.
You can save that brining, you wouldn't have to brine us anymore.
It costs more to maintain it than it does.
Just a couple of years ago, Schmeat Road fell apart between Vale Road and Town Line Lake. To the point where it was hazardous, and I forget what that was, a mile stretch. And I wanna say it was like $90-some thousand we had to come up with, which was more than we budgeted in a year.
Okay,
One question.
I got the petition last time from you guys, and then I typed up a cover letter that included what the price was going to be.
Okay.
So, it also includes a 20 and 15% back for asphalt, but that's still
That's year to year.
year to year, okay.
That's voted on by the road commission.
And when I went around and got petitions signed before, everybody got one vote. So if you owned 10 acres, you still got one vote. And even like Bayview, Town Line Lake Bay Association, even though we already have our own roads, we are willing to have our taxes assessed to pave these roads that we drive on to get to ours, but we have our own road. So even in our association, if you have more than one lot, you only get one vote. That's the way we did it.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that right?
So do you guys have a petition tonight that we could get?
We don't have a petition, no.
Well, they got it from us before, we can
Yeah,
check.
They got it from Lewis.
Lewis gave it to him before, we'll have to check on that.
okay.
Can we have it before next month's meeting?
I would think so, if I get my hands on it.
So far, we're only getting things a month at a time, just before.
Do you think, Christensen can give them figures, break down the figures for what, so they can show the people that are signing the.
No, I mean, he gave us some figures on what the cost is.
But you don't have a cost, did you have a cost for asphalt?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they need to decide, how long they want their assessment to be.
I think we just saved you some time.
She has my packet from when I did this before. And
We have a
can I show you
petition.
Yeah, we'll get it to you tonight.
this? Is this okay? This is what you gave me before. So is it gonna work? You
I
think?
believe so.
You look at it. let me
Right.
know.
Can I have can you write your phone number down? Do you care if I contact you? I mean, I wanna do a little research.
Is that a copy? Do you need copies?
I probably have another one in there.
Yeah, there's no.
I just wanna make sure. If you need copies, let me know. I can make them for you tonight.
Because I had a set with you the last time and we went over and you gave me all the addresses.
Okay, tomorrow.
Thank you.
Anything else on the drain or on the roads on Birch Shore?
Just that the county has been out on Birch Shore, and they have done some, grading on the hill there. They've gotten that complete, and on the backside of the hill. The homeowner that we've been dealing with, Mr. LaFever, thought that they did a good job, and then with this approval that we had tonight, they're hoping that'll take care of their issues.
Anything else to come before the meeting?
Public comment, you gotta do public comment, Chip.
Yeah, I know.
Before the meeting.
Oh,
Before that.
Public comment. I would appreciate if you've got something new to add, that we don't go over the same thing we've been going over for the last 4 months. If that's too much to ask, but it gets a little tiring for everybody. So, open for public comment.
I'll go first. I'm Marcy Myers, Cato Township. I want to thank the board in letting us all voice our thoughts and concerns on the big wind topic. Thank you. So I want you all to know that although the law may or may not allow you to conduct outside business with this wind company, your obligations are to the citizens of this township. We, the people of Cato Township, are asking that any township official, their immediate family or family business who has signed a lease or has collected money in any way with the wind company, to please do the right thing and recuse yourself. This is not about what you legally can do, it's about what you ethically and morally should do. This is about.
Marcy, you went over this with
No, I haven't, not with you, I haven't.
Well, I'm gonna stop you. We're not gonna ask Kim Carter to step off in the.
No,
board.
this is
She's been
not-
there and she's done
This
a
is
great job.
for everybody.
But if I had to ask her to resign, I would have to ask Brian
Not
to
resign,
also.
recuse themselves.
I haven't
from
signed
that
the lease,
subject
Larry.
area.
But
Not
you,
resign.
let me speak.
Okay.
You're so positive, you're not looking at the whole picture either, Brian. And we use that when we put you on to give the board a better scope of what, trying to balance this out a little bit. But I'm not gonna, this board is not gonna remove cars from Kim from that board. Just because Pat has signed a agreement with the company.
Right, and what I'm saying, no, this is what I'm saying though, I'm just talking about morals and ethics of our government, okay? I understand, what they have done is not illegal, I get that, I have attorneys in my, I get it, okay? That's not what I'm asking. I'm speaking for our township people here of Cato Township on what we would like to see, we would like happen. Can I just continue? It's short and
If it's short.
please, yes, okay. This is about keeping the integrity and trust in our government body and looking out for the best interest of Cato Township citizens. All of you understand that the majority of the citizens of this township and county are not for the building of these industrial wind farms. And just look at what this company is doing to our community. Some of my kids' friends have, families have signed leases. And it saddens me when I hear from these young adults that all their neighbors around their family farms hate them now. This is what's happening. Even our youth in this community are having to deal with the negative impacts of this project, and unfortunately, it's only going to get worse. I hear people saying things that, like, they won't patronize certain businesses anymore, and that is happening on both sides of the aisle. It's just so sad that we are allowing these outsiders to do this to us, and like I said before, once they collect their profits, they're gone. And I guarantee they will never remember your name, or even the names of this township, once they pack up and run with their checks in hand. We'll be left with a broken community that will feel the negative effect of this wind project for decades to come. And I just wanna say one more thing. I had a conversation with my young son tonight. And he told me that he talked to his friend's parents because they've signed leases, and you know what they told him? This is sad. It's about the money. It's not about farms, roads, schools, the community. They're getting big money. It's all about the money, and that just saddens me to no end. Thank you.
Any other comment?
I guess I have to respond to that, Larry. I have not signed a lease, I have no no, let me speak, this is my public comment, okay? You spoke out and you pointed me out, and,
Well-
the fact that I am that I feel, in, what I feel is best for the policy of this township, for what the citizens want, that I'm in favor of a protective ordinance, that you're threatening to kick me off the committee, that was out of line, that was big time out of line. That being said, I wasn't gonna talk about wind in my public comment here, but I'm gonna move on with what I did wanna get into. With the township's fiscal year, ending back on June 30th, I presume our township's, fiscal year 21 financial statement audit will be taking place soon, or if it hasn't already taken place. To get myself up to speed, I downloaded the results of our past 2 annual audits, from the state treasury's website, and I do have a couple concerns I wanted to bring up after, looking that over. Starting with fiscal year 19, I noted that our auditor reported a significant deficiency in our budgeting process due to overspending. This was not noted in the board minutes. So I'd like to follow up with a few questions. A, what happened? B, why did it happen? And C, what controls do we have in place so that it doesn't happen again? Fiscal year 20, it looks like in February of this year, so just a few months ago, we received a notice from the state of Michigan indicating they were gonna withhold any revenue sharing that we may get or put limits on our ability to borrow money due to not filing timely our annual local unit fiscal report. So again, that wasn't in the board minutes, so my questions are, what happened and how much, if any, money was withheld, or was our borrowing capacity affected? Why did it happen? And again, what controls are in place to ensure that doesn't happen again? Why do I say these things are concerning? Well, we're all familiar with what happened at our county level a few years ago where they didn't do their due diligence on their audits. So there's definitely reason to be concerned about those things. That being said, fiscal year 21, I'd like to know when the audit is scheduled. Will the auditor be presenting the audit results to the board? How will the board review and approve the audit once it takes place? And lastly, I'd like to call for the formation of an audit committee of citizens to be involved in this process, to both review the results and to be able to ask questions of the auditor. So.
I can answer that actually. The question about the filing with the state, we don't file it, our CPA does. She was late filing it. It's called an F-65 form. Wasn't on us, that's on her. She does it every year. The prior year,
Finish that one, there was no withholding, we didn't get anything withheld from us.
thank you.
That was the second part of that question,
So it's
correct?
been filed, we're in compliance
Oh, yeah.
now, but we
And
haven't.
nothing was withheld, no restrictions, no borrowing restrictions.
The state treasury sends us a letter if they don't have the F-65 by a certain date, and they say we will withhold revenue sharing if we don't get that.
And they got it.
We don't file it, the CPA does, the audit
So
firm
the
does.
CPA dropped the ball.
I don't know if she dropped the ball or what, but she took care of it. So there was no withholding.
Okay.
The prior years, there was no overspending, it was line item adjustments. We're not allowed to overspend one line item by more than 10%. That was my first.
Otherwise you have to amend your budget,
Correct,
and ours didn't get amended.
that's
So
correct.
what controls do we have in place to make sure that
Well,
happens?
that was my first time at getting a township audit done. And, the auditor had written us a letter as a board and also the state treasury department explaining what that was all about and how that's gonna be corrected.
Okay,
And the audit is scheduled, it is not scheduled, but it's due, before the end of the year.
sure. So when will it take, when will
We've
it take
signed a
place?
letter of engagement, but it hasn't been performed.
And what process does the board go through? I mean, it wasn't noted, none of this was noted in the board minutes. I believe the fiscal year 19 audit was said that it was reviewed, or it was approved, but fiscal year 20 was not mentioned. So what process do you go through as a board, to review it? Does the auditor come and present?
She gives us her written opinion when she's all done. She presents each one of us a copy of her opinion.
She doesn't come here and go through it with
She
them?
does sometimes, not always. She comes and does the physical audit herself.
Okay.
Every
Well,
year.
I just think an audit committee of citizens, is a good idea, to be involved if you're not gonna, I guess, put it in the minutes for us to review or have to know, I guess, when they're gonna be here. So, that's something I'm very interested in.
They are public knowledge, so if you come to my office, I can give you a copy to read. I have my copy in the office all the time.
Well, I can get a copy off the state's website too, but I wanna know what internal controls
We,
this board has in place.
We only have to do an audit every other year, but the 40 years that I've been here, we've always done an audit every year. And the clerk arranges, the clerk and the auditors get together, they come here, pick up the information from the treasurer and the clerk.
They actually sit here, and Todd and I are both here, and give them the information that they are looking for, whether it's bank statements. Like, they'll take my bank statements and they'll say, okay, they'll look for a specific check, and they wanna make sure that there is a check stubbed with that.
I should tell you, Joyce, that's what I do for a living. I'm a
Right.
financial statement auditor, but
But
it's
you
not,
understand,
it's
but
not
maybe
so
you-
much as looking at the report and saying, pass, move it on. I wanna know what discussion, what we're looking at, what's being presented, to take that seriously. So
And
that's
then-
just all I wanted to, Larry, you kinda got me a little riled, with your comments, I have to say, but that was just more of a wanting to
Every
be
year,
involved.
each of us each board member gets this.
Okay,
And this happens to be the 2019 audit.
and it was the
And,
internal control letter that I
Then,
called.
the board just accepts it. That's basically all there is to it. I mean, you can question her,
Sure, well,
but,
you wanna know you're reading it, you're looking through it and asking questions of the auditor, and if you don't have that expertise, then a citizens committee, it's very common to have a separate audit finance committee, in local government nonprofit organizations, and I'm willing to be a part of that if that's something, that you want.
I'm,
Open to public,
yeah,
yeah.
not to say on that, but that's what we do. As far as our previous clerk, had some problems health-wise. He left out a mess, but they've worked through it. But
That's a lot of what I hear, I don't think that a master plan has been looked at in many, many years, and, these are things when people pass away, you've gotta have contingency plans in place,
yeah.
You can't just say, oh, it's in a box in their
Well,
house, these are things I'd like to see a little bit tightened up a little bit more.
Good thing now that's going on now, that when that didn't go on, always has, the spouse has been the treasurer's,
Clerk's deputy.
The clerk and treasurer both have always used their spouse as a deputy. Well, neither one of them they have separate, deputies, so hopefully we won't be in that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, to not have
Well,
a
it's a
spouse.
very good idea, but, because we had a problem with, Letty was a very, very good treasurer for many years, but we all get old. And Anna, she's a great lady, but she couldn't do what had to be done. So, of course, once the clerk or treasurer dies, the deputy's no longer a deputy.
Let's hope we don't have
But
that
they
problem
have,
with anybody
but
here.
now that there's somebody else there that is actively, both of them are actively helping,
Well, my purpose is just to tell you that I'm interested in helping or being involved, with that
well,
going
thank you.
forward, and
Thank you.
that's all I have to say.
Anything else? Paul, I see you back in the crowd there. We got something you'd like to say?
Well, I could, if somebody else wants to talk.
I got something. Do you want to go ahead, Paul? Go ahead.
Okay, well, thanks for taking public comment. I appreciate that. I was at a planning commission here, it's been a month or so ago, and I was thoroughly impressed with the people on the board and how they handle things. I was super impressed with your chairman here, Phil. I haven't seen him for 45 years since I've been in school, but he's changed a little bit, so have I. But I wanna challenge you like I challenge them. Your job is to get this wind turbine policy right. I don't know what right is, but I know in 5, 10, 20 years, we don't wanna say to ourselves, what did we get ourselves into? That's a challenge. Larry, you made a comment a month or so ago, wind turbines are coming. That's true, I agree with that. I'll take that one step farther, they're here. They're here. They've got land here, all they gotta do is follow your rules and put up wind turbines. Right?
Yep.
That's all, they're here. Now, what are we gonna do about it?
Well, hopefully our rules.
We've gotta set the rules, and the buck stops with you folks in this township. The buck stops, and when you're not sure how things are gonna look like 20, 30 years down the road, I'd rather be a little restrictive than to be too loose. We've got a tool in place. If I don't agree with your policy, I can appeal it. We got a board of appeals. All in place, people are there, it's a process, we've done it, for years. So, can we be restrictive? Yes, I think we can. And still, be proactive. I think we can. I think how restrictive, I don't know. But we have a procedure and process in place that we can, and that's gonna be the planning commission. All right, I was impressed with all of them. Every one of them I was. I actually Phil, I was impressed, and I told him that night too, I was impressed with all of them. I sat there for an hour, and they talked about a lot of things I thought was, didn't happen to agree with totally everything, but that's all right, that's the way it works. So anyway, my challenge is to do all the research you can and try to get it right.
Thank you.
Try to get it right, so, yeah, thanks.
Jamie Snyder, Cato Township. My one concern is you brought up the law firm Fahey. I have been to I've been to a lot of township meetings, but I've been to both Maple Valley and Winfield, and wow. Winfield with their solar ordinance, when they were voting on that, and having one of the lawyers' wives get up and talk about how good these fans are, is a concern to me. They're not going to be unbiased. They're for wind. I ask as a citizen to have that name removed and not use them. I've also watched Kyle O'Mara at both of them. He's very much pro-wind. He's not about the citizens. So again, I just ask that name be removed for your citizens. That's it, sorry.
I got a couple comments and a couple questions. First, I gotta thank you guys for answering questions and keeping this open. That's very much appreciated. Then, the Pat Carr, I don't know how many thousands you have to receive from a special interest in order to steer your vote for that to be considered a conflict of interest. Up until a couple years ago, when a board member had signed a lease, it was a conflict of interest. We have one judge who sets a precedent by ruling otherwise, and now we're kind of experiencing this trickle-down effect. Honestly, these small townships, the ethics should really steer it, and Kim should, step down on her own. Montcalm Wind's a great project. Somebody else will step up and pass it, I'm sure. They don't need that conflicted vote. That personally, I think it's bribery. I mean, you're being paid cash to vote one way and promised millions. I would think a conflict of interest would be steering thousands of dollars to pay for lawyers to come to every PC meeting. If we're talking about $350 an hour portage, that's $2,000 a meeting to pay for a lawyer. I don't know where that money came from, if that's already been approved. If so, however that happened, I would call that a conflict of interest. So I'd assume that's incredibly excessive, above your normal yearly budget, but I don't know. I'm new to civics, so I don't know if this is just how it usually works. But hats off to the planning commission meeting. They had a lot of progress, success, and you're 90% of the way through the ordinance. It's kind of a shame to let a lawyer come in and dictate it. The way it should work is you do your ordinance, you send it to him when you're done, $750, puts his comments, you go from there. It'd be ridiculous to, $10 grand you're gonna put into having a lawyer come to just run meetings. Just seems really excessive to me. When it's all said and done, you're gonna still end up sending it to them to revise it. But that's all I have to say.
Anybody else got a comment?
Phil. Yeah, I just wanna thank the board for, stopping our planning meetings, when it comes to wind. I appreciate that, motion tonight, because I can tell you as a chair in that committee, I'm not an expert, people. I've done a lot of research, I've talked to a lot of people, I've done a lot of readings, I've attended a lot of seminars. I'm not an expert, I'm not, and I don't think anybody on our committee is an expert. You know, you can find a lot of things online today, and you can read it thinking that it's right, but it may not be right, it could be wrong. So, I'm not so sure what we believe, and we need some legal advice. And David's asked for that for tonight, and we appreciate that. It is my belief, once we get that, then they should be part of that process, because we don't wanna spend our wheels, because we have been meeting month after month after month, and, I'm not so sure that, some of the stuff we're talking about is really legal, if you will. But again, it depends on who you talk to, who you believe, when it comes to that process. The other piece of that is that, to save on time, to Todd, what you said, maybe our meetings need to be a bit longer. So if somebody's driving a ways, obviously, we maybe have a 3 or 4 hour meeting, if you will, instead of just a 2 hour meeting. A lot of times our meetings, you know, we're lucky if we get 45 minutes, depending on the night, working on an ordinance, because we sit here and listen to these people. Larry, to your point, we hear the same damn things week or month after month after month. And what a waste of time. What a waste of time. We could be done with it, but you know what? I guess that's the way we do things when it comes to the
We don't like it, but it's a system that we have to live with.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, I was never part of this political process, if you will, but let me tell you, I've learned a lot
It's
since.
too bad you can't have a work session and
Exactly.
do that, but you can't today.
So maybe we'll have this is my time, Chairman. I mean, I know you interrupted me during my meetings, but this is my time. So with that being said, maybe we'll have a longer meeting when it comes to that process, but we really need that legal advice when it comes to that process, and I appreciate on behalf of the commission that you take that time, and I know you've set some budget monies aside for that, but, I feel we really need that, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Hubbard, Cato Township. Nobody's a professional. You're absolutely correct. I don't believe Albert's a professional on taxes. I don't believe Albert's a professional with that back there, because my property's on there, and it is not signed up, so that is not professional. So I'm understanding that nobody's professional, but in our meeting, the only person that was pointed out to be a professional was Albert. And that is wrong. Brian O'Shea, for 3 months, I believe, he said he would get us a safety manual. We did the research, it's in a lawsuit. It's a safety manual. And in that safety manual, it states that you need to be on a 400-foot turbine, 500 meters. I know we're all pretty smart, that's 1,640 feet. That's all I asked for. It's a safety manual. It's real easy. We don't have to argue. We don't have to be professionals. Somebody wants it on their property? Good. We want a safety manual used. A safety manual. They are out there. So the argument and all this controversy wouldn't be there if the board would have just asked for it back when we had a meeting in the park.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
No other comment? Pat, do you have anything? Pat Sharp?
I don't. I can tell you what we did at the county
Go ahead,
today.
go ahead, George.
So we installed 2 new commissioners today. We appointed one last month and he took office tonight. We appointed another one today for an opening and she took office today as well. Wrapped up the budget discussions. Happy to report that after a couple years of pretty tough sledding budget-wise, county's in much better shape. We approved probably the most liberal, generous budget that we've ever approved in my time. Most departments should be back fully staffed and raises to some elected officials or appointed department heads that have gone several years without them, while the union employees still enjoyed those raises, so that feels good to make those people whole. You know, just is this public comment or is this my grace period as being your commissioner? I guess I don't wanna see my.
I should have, we haven't adjourned, the board has adjourned, so whatever time you want, Pat.
Well, I'll be brief, but just a couple points that I think are noteworthy, I guess, you know, there was a study commissioned, and it's probably been longer ago than I know, I'm gonna say 10 years ago, and it revolved around a term they used big at that time, it was called placemaking, and what that was about was what communities have to offer as far as different infrastructure or facilities, organizations, church, you know, so Lakeview, long story short, Lakeview scored better than anyone in the county on that placemaking study per capita, better than Greenville, better than anyone else, and really scored well in the state of Michigan for this placemaking. And it revolves around things, you know, we have our own fire, I'm with the fire department, so that's the first one. We have our own fire department, we have our own police department, we have an airport, we have several churches, we have a tractor implement dealer, we have a hospital, you can go on and on and on. Those are the things that make that good. And what my point in that is so Lakeview scored really high in that. And it's really a shame to go through this process. I don't know how we got to this as a society where we've got just a lynch mob mentality. I know when this thing started, no one came to the planning commissioner, the township boards, and any of the townships that I'm familiar with and said, you know, Larry Gilbert, you've been working for me for 40 years, you've been smart enough and good enough to do this work. I've got some concerns about wind, I'd like to talk about them. It just slammed us in the face that everybody is controversial and taking that lynch mob approach that you better see it my way or else. And it's really sad, I guess, particularly in this area. I've always been proud of this district that I represent in the Lakeview area and knowing how well we scored in that placemaking thing. And then to see us at this point in society where nobody can do anything right, there isn't any elected officials that have any credibility, everybody's pissed off all the time. It's just really sad. And whether you're for wind or you're against wind, we've got to get back to a place in society where we've got some civility and some respect for one another. It's gone out the window. When you talk about a civilized society, we're just not there. And I don't know the cause of it. I certainly don't know the fix for it, but it's just really a shame. And particularly in a place like this, we've got so much going for us. If there was a way that everyone used that energy to focus on something positive instead of fighting over wind turbines. But, and the other part of it, everyone knows, you know, my name's been brought up 150 million times. Everyone knows that I've signed the lease. I'm in favor of it. And no one's gonna believe me. Everybody thinks it's personal, what I'm gonna gain personally. I couldn't care less about that, and you can believe me or not. The motive in me supporting it goes back 5 years before Apex even got here. It was a different wind energy company. It was actually two of them that talked to the former controller and myself about the possibility of coming here. And I've seen the spreadsheet. I know that there's